How you doing, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Look, I've got a new video for you guys, and actually what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be answering some of your questions that I've had either from my videos, questions I've had from people I've known from outside. So yeah, I'm going to talk about my questions that have mainly come from the video I did in, I think it was March, and it was about the Harrods Tudor that I bought. I'm also going to talk about some questions that have come from friends that I have outside my YouTube channel, for example, and questions that perhaps I think could be useful for you guys and maybe interesting to see my point of view on some of the one of the questions I've been asked. And actually they are mostly concerned with Rolex. So yeah, I hope you guys find the content interesting today. I've got some of my questions jotted down, so you may see me looking away from the camera and just sort of collecting my thoughts while I think about what I'm going to say. You know, I've got pretty much a good idea of my view on some of these things. I hope you guys agree, or even if you don't, that's still good. I mean, it's always good to have some debate. And I just want to say, I'd like to do some more of these videos eventually. So if you have any questions on anything that I talk about, or any of my opinions, or why I think or feel a certain way, yeah, I'm really happy to answer any questions that you may put. I'm really pleased that some of you guys have been doing that, and yeah, you know, no question's a bad question, well, within reason, guys, of course. The first question I want to answer is one that I got, and this was stemmed again from my video on Harrods Tudor that I bought, the Harrods Special Edition. The question I got was what, you know, is the general wait list time? I think a lot of you were interested to know how long you'd have to wait if you wanted to get one of those watches directly from Harrods. So in my particular case, well, I bought my Rolex Sub last September, and as I was buying that Rolex Sub, you know, I went down to have a look to see what the Harrods Tudor looked like, because it was a watch I was already had my eye on, and at the same time I bought it, I put my name down on a wait list. Now, it wasn't until February, March that I got the call saying that, yeah, the watch is available, and for me to buy. You know, my position in the list had come up. Now that was about 6 months. So let's say September, so October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, so it was about 6 months. So let's say that unless there's something that significantly changed, I feel if you put your name on a wait list, you should get your watch within 6 to 8 months. And that's sort of the current feedback I'm getting from those of you that have answered my question, and one or two others that I know have put their name down for that watch personally as well. So yeah, I mean, one thing I'd like to say, I think going through some of the response I got in that video as well, look, some guys are buying the watch because it potentially could be a collector's piece if they stop making it at some point, and it becomes maybe a slightly more rarer item, or one that they don't do anymore. Now, my opinion on that is, well, that is absolutely fine. But although I personally bought the watch because I thought it could become a collector's item, it was actually a watch that I genuinely liked, and I'm more than happy to keep it whether or not it becomes a collector's item or not, whether it goes up in value, whether it stays the same, whether it goes down. It's just a really nice watch to have. So I'm not so concerned about whether it becomes really valuable in 10, 15 years time. If you have actually seen the Tudor Black Bay Harrods Special Edition on the wrist, it's a fantastic watch. It looks really nice on. It's a really nice watch to have, and at the price of under £3,000, you know, you can't really go wrong with it. My message on this is really buy the watch because you like it, not because it become a collector's item in the future. It's a nice watch. If you are looking for a collector's piece, there are plenty of others that perhaps could be more suited for that sort of purchase. But genuinely, only buy the watch if you really like it. It's a watch that you'd like to have. For me, of all the Tudors that I've seen, that was kind of my favorite, so I went for it. The second question I got on the Harrods Tudor was, what is its dial size? Well, the dial is 41 millimeters, and compared to a Sub which is 40, it's not massively bigger in terms of the way it looks in the dial, but what I would say, it's got a bit more of a presence to the Rolex Sub, which is slightly more elegant, and even though there's like a millimeter in it, yeah, there's definitely a different type of look with the Harrods Tudor than what you would get with the Rolex Submariner. But in my opinion, the Rolex Submariner is unbeatable in its aesthetic look, placement, fit on the wrist. Although the Harrods Tudor is a stupendously impressive watch to see in real life. In fact, it's got a really nice wrist presence in that it's quite, although it's slightly bigger, it's a bit thicker as well. And it just has a bit more of a in-your-face look, but without being brash. Still on the Harrods Tudor, the third question I want to broach is, how big is my wrist? Now the answer to that, and this is really lazy because I should know the answer to this, I don't know the exact size of my wrist. But what I can tell you is that when I bought the Harrods Tudor, I had to take out 3 links to make it fit well. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't have an adjustable clasp like the Rolex Submariner does. Today, I'm actually still wearing my Casio, but this is kind of how I like my watches to fit. Just a bit, not too, there's movement, but there's not, like, it's not hanging off my wrist. I think that's just a really bad look. I like my watch to fit in the way it should. So that's kind of how I personally like to wear my watches. I think that way, they look very smart, very assured, and it's just the right way to wear a watch in my view. But everyone's got a different way of doing these things. So what works for me might not work for you guys. So leaving the Harrods Special Edition alone now, I'm going to go into a question that was asked by a friend of mine. And this is a friend that I speak to about watches every now and again. And he knows that I'm passionate about watches, etc. And the question he asked me was, if money was no object, what Rolex would I go for right now? Well, unfortunately for me, money is an object, and I decided to focus on watches that have a retail value of no more than £10,000. And the first watch I said that I'd go for, if money was no object, would be the Rolex GMT Master 2. Now, specifically the blue-red one, or as you guys may know it, the Pepsi. Now, the reason I like that watch is I just think it's a massively stylish watch. Everyone knows the hype surrounding that watch, and in a way, that's probably one of the reasons I wouldn't buy it just now. It's just a really nice color scheme, and one of my most favorite things about the watch is the Jubilee bracelet, which I just think sets the watch really nicely, gives that little bit more razzmatazz without being overbearing, or flashy, which I think can be a problem when you wear a watch like this. And also in terms of a watch that just shouts that I'm wearing a Rolex, which could potentially leave you open to, I guess, people that perhaps maybe don't have the best intentions. But yeah, I just really, really like the watch. In fact, the next Rolex I do go for hopefully will be a Rolex GMT Master 2, or even though I've already got a sub, it would be a Rolex Submariner Hulk, which goes into my number 2 watch. And the Rolex Submariner Hulk was the number 2 watch that I'd go for of the Rolex brand. I just love the green dial, the green ceramic bezel. It's really just a future classic in my view. But yeah, I just really love that watch. The only reason I probably didn't put it as my number 1 was the fact that I've already got a Submariner date with the black face. So it probably wouldn't make sense for me to go for that watch right about now. I definitely think if you're going to have a few Rolexes, you must sort of diversify a bit between the styles of watches they do, just to, I think variety is also important. But if I got the opportunity to buy one, of course, if it was before I was able to get the GMT Master 2, for example, I'd certainly go for it. The third watch that I said I'd go for would be the GMT Master 2, and it's the black and blue color scheme. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, he must really like the G&T Master 2. And I have to say, if I had the choice between the G&T Master 2 Pepsi and the G&T Master 2 Black and Blue, or aka Batman, I would certainly go for the Pepsi. But given that the G&T Master 2 Pepsi is basically impossible to get, that would be my third choice, and is in fact a watch that I really like. And again, just as with the Pepsi, the Jubilee bracelet, and even in fact the color scheme, you know, black and blue, like blue being one of my favorite colors, by the way, it's just fantastic. I think it would suit a lot of the kind of clothing that I would wear. It's definitely one that I think is probably less in your face than, for example, the Pepsi or the Hulk, because it's got slightly more demure tones, i.e. the black and blue, which means that, you know, it's not quite as noticeable. But the Jubilee bracelet again really sets it off lovely, and yeah, it's definitely my number 3 on the list. So let's see, you know, maybe in the next year to 18 months I can get hold of one. I can't guarantee it, but some of the other ADs I've been talking to around the country, or the city rather, because I haven't been going all around the country, maybe it'll help me out. Let's see. I'm hopeful because of my spending history with Harrods, but who knows, you know, getting one of these watches sometimes from an authorized dealer, as you all know, is pretty much impossible. So let's not be too far ahead of myself. Still on the money not objects theme, however, if money was truly not object, I did have to mention that, you know, I love the Rolex brand, and I'm sure many of you do, but at a certain point I feel that buying a Rolex could be slightly too generic. I don't want to come across aloof, but what I am saying is that, you know, up to £10,000, I think you can get a really nice Rolex, and I'm all for that. But spending more than that on a Rolex, I start thinking at that point that maybe it's time to diversify and look at other brands. Now, I'm nowhere near able to afford a watch for 15, 20, 30,000 pounds at this point in my life. One of my favorite watches at the moment is an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. It's just a beautifully proportioned and stylish watch. It's, you know, got just the right curves and angles, and I'm specifically talking about the blue face with a date, because I personally don't love watches without a date, although I did buy the Harrods special edition without a date, but I knew it didn't have a date and I was fine with it. If I'm going to spend stupendous money, and we're looking in the region of 25-30,000 pounds that these watches cost. In fact, I don't actually know the exact RRP of this watch. I've only kind of seen what they go for in the second-hand market. The Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is like a dream watch for me, and if I'm spending really substantial sums on a watch, that's definitely one of the pieces that I would be interested in looking at. The fourth question I want to broach with you guys is a question that I've been asked outside of my YouTube channel, because it's not something I've really discussed as yet, but I think it's something that many of you would be interested in knowing. The question I've been asked is, when is Rolex going to upgrade its current movement in the Rolex Submariner from the 48-hour reserve that you see currently in the watches? The information I'm seeing on these subjects across the internet and the various watch channels that I've been following on YouTube, etc., plus some research that I've done on my own, it looked like, for all intents and purposes, that Rolex were due to release the new upgraded movement from, well, which has the 70-hour power reserve from the 48-hour power reserve, which is in the current Submariner, this year at Basel. I think that Rolex have now left Basel and will no longer be having a boutique there going forward when it returns in 2021. As you know, Basel in 2020 got cancelled, and at that time Rolex also said that they're going to postpone any releases for 2020 until 2021. So short answer is they're not going to release it now in 2020, but it looks like we could start seeing an upgrade to the movement in the Rolex Submariner next year in 2021. How they'll release that, I don't know. If they're not gonna be attending Basel, well, since Rolex don't want to do an online release, as did Breitling with their new range of watches recently, logically it would seem they're gonna bring out their Submariners with the updated movement in 2021. When or how, I don't know, but in 2021, hopefully we'll see something. I think having a 70-hour power reserve in their new movement would be fantastic. I think in my Rolex Submariner, for example, you know, having the 48-hour power reserve it's not terrible to work with. It gives you, I guess, a good excuse to play with your watch a bit more. But in my Harrods Tudor Special Edition, for example, I think it's really, really convenient to have a 70-hour power reserve. It just gives you that little bit more breathing space between winds. So yes, do keep the questions coming. It's been fantastic getting the sort of response I've been getting from you guys. Please feel free to drop a like, subscribe. Hopefully the quality of my video should be improving as time goes on, but we'll see. But yeah, that concludes my video for today, and thank you for joining. Goodbye.